What is up?
What's up, boys?
Yeah, where'd you get that voice
I
from?
have no idea. I pulled it out of my vocal cords.
Your vocal cords?
Ew, I forget it does that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Even the people are hearing that. Don't do that. You can't cut that out. This sounds disgusting.
I like this jacket. Amanda told me I should wear it on the podcast because I
like
something
it.
different.
And it looks good. I was
very
actually going to
cozy.
say, when you said, man, you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. Did she get it for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
She's
I
got
think it
good
was
taste.
a Christmas gift. No,
Yeah.
it was something. It was a gift. It was
Yeah.
cool.
She's got good taste. You got a good lady there.
I do.
Yes.
Proud of it.
I'm so glad she's part of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your red shoes are also very cool. Oh, you can't see them on the podcast, I guess. But
There they are.
I keep thinking, though, of the Dorothy slippers. Where there's...
Oh no! Don't say that.
I'm sorry.
You know the
It's
rabbit
hard for-
holes for that thing.
What?
The red shoes. You know what the red shoe
I know.
symbol.
Well, they're not
symbolize?
that red, but I just...
Oh, no.
I don't see red shoes very often, which is...
No.
I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of rabbit holes, we're going to get into it today. So,
I'm going to talk about Ishtar.
here we are, another episode.
Yes.
Let's go.
Dun, da, da, da.
Shifting culture.
And breaking woke. I'm Pep Waples,
And I'm Gavin Waples.
and we are shifting culture.
And doing the intro backwards.
The Spirit of the Lord says, do you feel the winds of change? For I am releasing my hand, my anointing, that shall break the yoke of woke.
So, here we go. So it's
Oh
funny.
my gosh. I remember
Yeah.
there's a shirt we were going to make. It was like, so, welcome back. Or whatever. It's a phrase you said like every other episode back in the
Oh, yeah.
earlier episodes. I'm like, oh, we should make that shirt. It was funny.
We should make the shirt. Mm-hmm. So, ...
Yeah. So,
We should.
that would be
Let's
funny.
do it. Let's do it. We'll make it just another shirt.
Get on the
that-
merch team.
Yeah, it has no at all. No,
It's just funny.
Yeah, it has no.
So,
Yeah, that was it. I would
just have your face like,
No, not my face. Just the
No,
word.
it has
just
to
the
be
word.
your face.
No,
Yes, it
no,
does.
no. We can
Yes,
do
it
that
does.
if pep talks or something like that. I don't know.
please.
Yeah,
So.
but not that
So.
one. So.
So,
All right. Well, getting into this, there's a couple things I want to like put out here before we start into the podcast. There's going to be some key words that when we say them, I want you to have a picture that's different than you might think. So, because there's a scripture that says, well, there's several. One in the Old Testament talks about they worshipped and served Baals. So worshipped and served, those two words, worship and serve. But it also says that Baal and Ashtaroth,
Baals and
Ashtaroth.
Ashtaroths, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Baals and Ashtoreths, with an E.
Oh, yeah.
So the Ashtoreths is plural Ashtaroth. So multiple of this one god, which is Ishtar. It's all the same spirit with a different name. So the Greeks and the Romans had Venus. I forget which one. The Romans had Venus. I think the Romans had Venus. And the Greeks had Venus.
No, I think you're right. I think the Greeks were the ones with Aphrodite. Yeah, the Greeks were Aphrodite, and the Romans were Venus.
Okay, so the Greeks had Aphrodite, right? Is that right?
I think so.
Either way, same spirit,
Right.
Because Aphrodite was the goddess of love, and they call her the goddess of love. But it's when you think of that, they have Cupid and Valentine's Day and blah. It's not. It's anyway. So that's where. So for shortening the name, we're just calling this foul spirit Ishtar.
Right, because that is another one of the ancient names.
It is another one of the ancient names throughout history. This just to show the influence of this demonic entity. Because we've talked about Baal, Ishtar, and Moloch, which is a dark trinity that has basically occupied the world, but particularly in the last several decades, America. Mm-hmm. Really, really come to light back in the 1950s and 60s, and has really like hit it in hyper overdrive into the 80s up to now, where it's just crazy what this looks like. How Ishtar now is so prevalent in our society, and it's even leaning now and dipping into areas of Moloch, and that's the death, annihilation, hatred of all life. It's into that phase fairly deeply.
Right.
Now, it's not just Ishtar or Baal. They're occupied here. So I want to go over these words that kind of give a definition of, so when you think of this, what this would look like. If you're, what is worship and serve? You think about, they worshipped and served Ishtar. Oh, bad for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That they shouldn't have done that. But this is happening in America daily, worshiping and service to these gods, false gods, rather.
Even though we have no temples to Ishtar or anything like that. It's
right. Not dedicated.
Right.
There's no statue out there. We're not burning incense and all that. But the worship and service is happening even in the lives of believers, and some of them don't even realize what they're doing.
Right.
It's service and worship. So here's what I'm going to give for the definition. So the definition of worship, a couple of things here. It's what your life revolves around and capitulates to. In other words, what your life will bow to. And for the Christian, for the most part, service for us, for example, or worship for us revolves around the service of the Lord. What is he having us do? So, we have church Sundays and Wednesdays. We have special events that we go to that involve church services. And then we travel and do church services. We have the Holy Ghost services that we do. So that's part of our acts of worship toward our God.
Right.
Okay. So worship also means to honor or show reverence for as a divine being or supernatural power.
Yeah, which I think in ancient times, a lot of it was more of a divine being. And, supernatural power would be like, blessing the crops and all this stuff. But in the modern sense of the word, it's framed itself more as an ideology than it has an actual personhood God. Where Ishtar back in the day was worshipped as a god because that's how the culture was. But today, it's ideologies. It's
still worship.
Right. It's fourth wave feminism. It's having a what was that? The women's march. They had trans men that were like leading the women's march.
Yes.
And saying women are women and like my body, my choice. Things like that are all service to an ideology, but the ideology is Ishtar.
Is Ishtar.
Yeah.
Exactly. The modern word is ideology, but it is the God that they're serving. That's
right.
So ideology is just a description of worship.
Right. Well, ideology is the modern God.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the other one, the word serve, because if in the Old Testament they worshipped and served, that means there's two words, and that means there's two different things going on here, even though they might look kind of the same.
The what?
Huh?
I didn't hear that first.
There's two things going on, even though they might look a little different or sound a little different. They're actually worship and serve being similar.
Okay.
But there's two different words. So one is a higher level than the other. They're going to look similar until you hear the description of them. So like worship, for instance, worship says to honor and show reverence for reverence to and for as a divine being or supernatural power. We know that a lot of elites, or maybe we should say this, the conspirators, the conspiracy theorist people, believe that some of these higher echelon elite people are serving and actually worshiping a false god behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. So we're talking child sacrifice, we're talking...
Well, if you think about this, okay, because I had this thought a little while back, like especially with politicians and like leaders of influence in culture, they always have been siding with the woke mob of things, but it is well known that the woke mob is a minority,
right?
And if you think about this even logically from a political standpoint, if you're wanting to gain power, you never appeal to the minority. You appeal to the majority, and then, like being corrupt, you just do whatever you want, but you appeal to the majority. But in this instance, they're actively pushing the minority and not even quiet about it. Like they're active. They, whenever they're questioned about it, they always fall back on, their woke language. And really, because that's not even sensical strategically,
Right.
So it just has to be out of an evil mindset. There has to be no other purpose than this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Regardless of what people think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's crazy. That's how I can't see why people can't see that this is of spiritual origin.
Right.
The things that go on, and that it's
Because it's nonsense.
It's nonsense. It's an attack on people, but where's it coming from? Mm-hmm. It's coming from spiritual forces. This is why you have to learn the things of God. This is why church is important. This is why getting to know your Bible is important. This is why going to Bible studies is important. This is why hanging out with the right crowd is important, because it's a spiritual battle. And you'll be influenced by these things if you don't know what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm covering what worship and serve looks like. Because there's here a while back there was a person that I know that for a second we thought that, they were they disappeared, didn't know where they went.
Oh,
and it was a scary moment. Didn't know what was going on. Finally, gotten word that they'd been found, but it was ominous on how they were found. To my mind, I thought they were dead. Mm-hmm. The way this news was given to me. Well, this person, great person, love this person, but they've been hanging out with the wrong culture. Really caught up in Ishtar culture, because we haven't gotten into this a whole lot, but Ishtar culture involves alcohol, it involves drugs, it involves sex. That is the nature and culture of Ishtar. This is when, so the bars, like where Ishtar was really unleashed in America, was actually through a gay bar, with a riot there that started with a lesbian, it was all it. And so, alcoholism alters the mind, which is connected and tied to Baal, because that's his alteration of perception. Mm-hmm.
But it was heavily involved in the ancient worship of Ishtar.
Heavily involved.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you want to know all the specifics of that, read Return of the Gods. It's in there.
Yes, Return of the Gods, right here, this book by Jonathan Cahn. There's been so much. I mean, look at all the little papers I have in here, notes, and you got to see it. There's all kinds of things underlined.
If you want dates, times, experiences, that's where you should go, because we're not going to bring everything out. But there's a lot of what we're talking about springs from that information.
Right. That information was given, and it's eye-opening. I mean, you look at this and like, oh my goodness, it makes sense. That's when our culture started to shift at this, time at this time of our culture. When that happened, I didn't even know this event took place.
Most of America wouldn't have.
But I can feel the momentum, if you will, because it's spiritual in nature. Mm-hmm. So when this event took place, it's like, you didn't know it was happening, but a spiritual law had taken place because it was the gateway to America where it happened.
Right.
New York City being considered the gate of our country. Mm-hmm. So the gate was swung wide open, and this entity was allowed to have free reign in our country. There are spiritual laws that are talked about. Authority is a thing. Words are a thing. I mean, it comes from heaven, and it goes all the way through our society and everything. So there is a chain of command, and even darkness can't violate it unless you let them.
Right.
And if you do it out of ignorance, you're still letting them. You're giving permission, even though it's out of ignorance.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to know what we're looking at here. What does worship and serve look like? Well, if you give permission to an enemy, you will allow through service and worship, then what happens in your life? You're going to be scratching your head going, I don't understand why this is happening. I don't get it. I love God. Mm-hmm. But you're serving the enemy.
Right.
So that's why we're going through this. I mean, this is so funny. We haven't even got into the content yet, and we've got to cover some of this. Mm-hmm. So anyway, here's what it means. We talked about worship. So to serve means this. It means to be a servant. Now, sometimes people think, they think they're free.
Yeah.
They think, well, I'm not serving the enemy. I'm not his servant.
Yeah.
Yet the Bible is pretty clear that you can't serve two masters, and Jesus made it pretty plain. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. You can't serve two masters. You're either going to love the one and hate the other, or be loyal to the one and disloyal to the other. There's no in between.
Right.
And so in your mind, you might be thinking, well, I love God, but you're serving the enemy in another area.
See, that's why I have a huge problem with Christians who they call themselves Christians, or especially in leadership, but Christians in general. They call themselves Christians, and then they have a drink on the weekend, or they go out to the bar once a month on the Fridays, or whatever your level is.
Yep.
Because alcohol, whether you realize it or not, yet you may say it's just for fun. It just helps me loosen up. It helps me get free of these worries I have. But it is a replacement for God, because God is designed to be that. But beyond that, it is directly correlated to Ishtar. Because if you want, even beyond just the worship side of it, the reason it would have been that way? Just from the way I see that, the ancient gods as the representation of Ishtar, which is a lot of words, but basically to say, Ishtar's qualities, as far as personality goes, or like where the influence was, it was a domineering spirit and sexual promiscuity. Basically, she was known as the god of war in Artemis, or Aphrodite, and the goddess of love, all that stuff. And now, what is the two most common effects of alcohol?
Tell me.
Well, if you're in the bar, you're going to see people fighting, and you're going to see people flirting.
Yep.
Those are the two main things that you see from alcohol.
And there's an expression, that I grew up hearing, that, when a guy, say the next day, he's being teased because he was with a certain girl, and they always said, oh, he had his beer goggles on. It alters perception.
Right.
But yet we think it nothing to have alcohol as a daily involvement in I do. I'm talking about culture. I think it's
culture
horrible.
does. Culture
thinks it's nothing to have, alcohol involved in having a meal and whatever, not knowing that its origins came as service to a foreign god.
Right.
It was designed to help you serve a foreign god.
Right.
And get you away from the true God. Because Baal alters perception. And then here's the other thing about Baal and Ishtar. So Baal and Ishtar are depicted in many forms, and when I say Baal and Ishtar, I'm including all of their names throughout history, how they were recognized. So these spirits, Baal and Ishtar, were recognized as being married or companions.
Baal and Ishtar.
Baal and Ishtar.
Wow.
So in history, they were depicted as, but yet Ishtar also had lovers and pursued lovers. So when you see what's happening in our culture today with marriage being destroyed because, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Just go for it.
Well, there's some things I got to cover here with this worship and service. So they were tied together. And one kind of introduced the other. So by one coming in, there was a plan to bring in the other. And that's how it works with Moloch too. This Trinity works together.
Right.
And so Ishtar, the next phase is to usher in Moloch, which brings in death.
Yeah, and
complete annihilation.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, service, it means this. It means to be a servant. Now here's what I like. Here's another one. It means to assist a celebrant.
Yeah.
Just having assist, being assist. So the celebrant meaning the priest or the officiants.
Right.
So okay, what does that look like today? Okay, so now you've got people from Planned Parenthood who would serve as the priests for Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Because they came out, all this promiscuity now is producing all these babies that are not wanted, because Ishtar says any kind of sex is okay, right? She's has many lovers and so on and so forth. Now you got, in our modern day, we've got Planned Parenthood, and now you've got these politicians and doctors that are saying, your body, your choice.
Yep. Or even just people on Twitter.
Well, what I'm saying
That's
is now
service.
they're the ones, they're the officiants, they're the priests who have now come up with this language that says, okay, here's what we're going to put out here.
Yeah.
And now when you start talking about it, agreeing with it, and pushing that yourself,
Right.
you have become a servant of Ishtar.
Yep.
You have become the servant. And so you can do that in many, many areas of life that you become a servant. Okay, let's really dip in and touch on some things. Disney. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
We've already known Disney's been a wreck for a long time.
Okay, but don't tune me out here because I know already I'm pushing some buttons.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I know I am. Now listen, I can hear it said right now, you can't go anywhere in the world right now without something being affected and you're going to be blah, blah, blah because we're in the world, but we're not of it. I get that. But when you recognize something, you have to do something extreme to get rid of it.
Right. No, it's true. It's
It
true.
is.
And
so-
the mouse has been a problem for a long, long time.
Okay. I don't know if we can put this, I don't know if we should put this video up or not. Probably not. But there's a video, an old school black and white video of Mickey Mouse.
Oh, yeah. I'm not putting that up. I know which one you're talking about.
Okay, well, I'll just tell people about it, and then go look. They can go find it themselves because I saw it before, didn't even think anything of it.
Parental advisory warning.
Parental advisory: don't let your kids go look at this one after hearing what I've said on this. But there's an old black and white cartoon of Mickey Mouse. He's on a boat, no, he's not on a boat.
No, he's in a cheese factory.
Cheese factory. There we go. He's in a cheese factory and he's whistling,
Yeah.
just doing, and the cheese is coming along the conveyor belt. And the first cheese you get is just a solid chunk of cheese, and then it passes him. He grabs it and rolls it around and sticks it back on the belt, and it's got holes in it. It turns to Swiss cheese. Never even thought of that before. But then you look at it, and somebody pointed out where are the holes coming from. Mm-hmm. And really, what it is, it's the character of Mickey Mouse using his male appendage to put holes in the cheese, and it passes along the conveyor belt.
Right.
So Disney, from its very inception, had an agenda to worship Ishtar. Mm-hmm. Now, whether they recognized this, but there was a sexual connotation to everything they did. It follows up even through now the movies, the secret things that are put in the cartoons. It's widely known.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist on this, just go down a rabbit hole yourself. Check it out. You will see it for yourself.
And beyond even the conspiracy part of it, here's your history buff side of it. So in the cartoons were original, because Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, even the Looney Tunes,
Yep.
they all came out during the time of like the big wars, right? Cartoons were made for adults. Animation was made for adults. So it's especially oldest stuff are littered with adult jokes like that.
Yep.
And it was a direct, because that's what the culture deemed funny. That is right along with pornography and alcoholism, and that's why you see so many old cartoons with cigarettes and alcohol
Yep.
all the time.
And Betty Boop. Betty
Betty
Boop's an
Boop.
old one, but that was where sexual promiscuity was actually being introduced to the society. And that was Ishtar. Betty Boop, oh, it's a cute cartoon. Boop, 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 boop. And all these women, even today, love Betty Boop dresses with the polka dots and blah, blah, blah. But it was really Baal taking down and altering perception so that Ishtar could come in and start introducing sexualized connotations of everything. It started with a cartoon for
And
an
now,
adult.
the cartoons may have morphed into something for kids, but they still have those roots there.
Yep. And they got people thinking this is safe, adults thinking this is safe, and now they turned cartoon forms in for kids, but they're still doing the sexualized things even for kids now in this stuff.
And we're bringing it right back, because now you just go to a high school or play Fortnite with a 9-year-old and you hear how terrible that is. They know more about sex and promiscuity than anybody.
So continue with this, with what it means to serve. And I'll get back to Disney when I come to serve, okay? So it means to be a servant, to assist the celebrant. Now here's another one, and this is in the definition of serve: to be favorable, to be worthy of reliance or trust. So to have a favorable attitude,
Right.
Is
or
serving.
even a permissive attitude.
It's servitude.
Yeah.
That, by definition, is serving the one who's presenting it.
Right.
Now, it might be level after level where you don't actually see the person in charge of it, where you've just got this, priest that's serving the God that's out here putting this forward.
Right.
And you're, well, that's not so bad. When the whole root of it was back here. Mm-hmm. Well, now you've just served that false God.
Right.
And I can hear people right now, oh, you're just getting too extreme. I'm just giving definition.
Mm-hmm. Well, really, why would it have been so bad to have a cartoon that was sprang from something good rather than something terrible, Or advertisements. Advertisements used to be hilarious. Advertisements used to be great. They didn't even have to involve sex or, any of the crazy stuff. And movies used to be great, before the Transformers revolution and all that stuff. And the Fast and Furious, all that, the lowest common denominator, go watch our previous episodes, blah, blah, blah. The point, you can have good stuff without all this crap.
Yeah.
So why did it have to be there? It didn't.
Okay, so think about this when you talked about ads. There's an ad, you will not even know what I'm talking about when I mention it. There's an old Burger King commercial with this little old lady, and she's like, "Where's the beef?" Because there was a rival between McDonald's and Burger King.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's looking at a burger, and she's going, "Where's the beef?" And so it was just a cute, funny commercial. She's just an old lady looking for the hamburger, and it's a little tiny thing, McDonald's hamburger, and she looks at it, where's the beef? And then they show a big old Burger King burger with the meat coming outside the bun,
Mm-hmm.
And it was just funny. This little old lady who just was hilarious, But that's gone.
Right.
It's long gone.
Yeah. Now you have to resort to dirty jokes or a fake bleeped out curse word or Sydney Sweeney. Oh my gosh. We're having a shift episode about that. We may have already by now, but oof.
I didn't even know who that is.
Yeah. Well, the advertisement I saw was like, wow, okay, you're not even hiding it. That's insane.
Well, thinking about that, here just recently, Kanye West, well, not recently, it's going to be several weeks now.
Yeah, but still,
But
at the Grammys, right?
Kanye West at the Grammys, and here's a guy who's been touting, running his mouth over the last few years, God this and God that, and Jesus this and Jesus that. Then he shows up at the Grammys and tells his wife to disrobe, and she's flat nude. Mm-hmm. On stage, on the Grammys. I mean, come on. Now, that is service to Ishtar.
That's more than service. That's worship.
That's
a
true. That is
person of influence.
Yeah, that's a person of, that is a priest. Mm-hmm. That is a priest. And to think, oh, well, we don't know what Kanye's gone to, then you should not have put him up on an idol,
Exactly.
on a platform where he could speak for God, because he was speaking for God a few months, couple years ago, still speaking for God. And now he steps up with, and walks on there with his wife being totally nude. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, that guy is questionable. I think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Mm-hmm. Can't tell me that he's, I don't know the guy's heart, so I can't judge him, but I can judge his actions.
Yeah.
And his actions say he's still serving Ishtar.
Right. And really, that's a lot of the Hollywood and really executive elites, and you can go down rabbit holes and stuff, but at the baseline of it is, if you serve Ishtar, it will work for a season, because Ishtar, the whole goal is to take a lot of people down, as many people down as possible.
Yeah.
So if they can if Ishtar or Baal or Moloch or any of the demonic entities can exalt somebody, and it may look like they're prospering because they're exalted, but when they fall, like Kanye is falling and has fallen, they're going to take people with them.
Lots of people.
I mean, think of how much of a cult that Swifties are. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
Taylor Swift is a musician, and if she decided she wanted to take over Israel or whatever, she could have an army of Swifties show up with their pens and their, whatever.
They wouldn't last long.
No, but the point is, people like that have a lot of influence because they've been put on a pedestal.
Right. And the thing is, even about Taylor Swift, now I'm just going to throw this out there because I know people probably listen to her music. By her actions and her concerts, she looks more like an active witch than a musician. Mm-hmm. Her concerts are rituals. You just go look at them. They're rituals.
Well, you've seen how some of the videos of people blacking out and not even remembering the concert.
Yep.
Not even from alcohol. Just not like. Yeah.
Just forgetting the whole concert.
Right. knowing they were there, but not knowing a thing about what happened.
And again, that goes back to supernatural power.
Right.
You know, there's things too where a lot of these execs will pray over music in a satanic ritual, and pray over them in a demonic way for spells.
That was heavy in the 80s.
It was heavy in the 80s. Well, it's still prevalent.
Yeah,
they
but-
still do it.
Yeah, but especially when the heavy metal rock music was coming around.
Yeah.
That's when they were doing it.
Right. That's why I'm telling you,
Introducing it.
it's important. You know, we had a little conversation about, you know, how we talk about this stuff, you know, and even going, why are we bringing out Baal, Ishtar, Moloch, and, you know, what does this mean, and what is this for society? If you can see your enemy, you'll know how to war against him. And this is what I'm trying to help you to see here, is that the ancient gods, false gods, are still here. They're just in a slightly different form.
Mm-hmm.
The altars are still here. They just aren't made of stone.
Right.
They're not statues. They're characters on a cartoon.
Right.
They're characters at Disney.
Yep.
So going back to Disney, when we talk about worship and service, okay? So to serve, being favorable, tolerable, worthy of reliance or trust. People take their kids thinking they can trust Disney, but if you go back to the origin, just that first cartoon, and that's not just one. There's many of them. Even one where Mickey Mouse is standing on a rock. I forget what this one's called, but he's conjuring up the wind and he's conjuring up the waves.
Oh, Fantasia.
Fantasia. I've
Yeah.
never watched it because it always creeped me out, even before I was saved.
Mm-hmm.
But now knowing, I mean, that's witchcraft.
Yeah.
You know, but we think it's just Mickey Mouse is just cute.
I know.
This is Mickey Mouse.
But why couldn't you make a cute cartoon out of him going on an American adventure or something?
Right. But see, again, now what I'm looking at is this is service. When you have a favorable, permissive attitude, and not just favorable, reliance and trust. People are trusting their kids with Disney, thinking that it's okay, not knowing that they're in service to a false god.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is just the facts, people. This is just where it's at. You and God decide how far you need to go. Put it this way.
Yeah, really though.
I mean, do we still have a Disney Channel? Can't remember. We had it for a while, even after I've talked about some of this stuff, because we were watching Mandalorian.
Yeah, whatever it might have been it was Ahsoka. I was holding out for Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, okay.
Yeah.
But even that, some of those programs now have gotten so woke that it's like, oh, I can't even stand this. You know, I'm not.
I have never seen a Star Wars project be canceled, but the Acolyte show was so bad and so beyond woke that I didn't even finish the first episode. And for me to turn off a Star Wars show is a very, very sad day.
Yeah.
Okay, but I even sat through most of Kenobi, and I'm sorry for those of you that like it, but my best friend and I, we made a pact not to watch the last episode just because of how they dropped the ball. My point is, Acolyte was canceled because of how bad it was.
Yeah.
Not even canceled like people decided we're going to not watch it and like the cancel culture. Like the executives literally had to cancel the show because they wouldn't have made any money.
So again, with Disney, I told you this, and you didn't know this happened, but Disney hires men to play the costume Minnie Mouse. So Minnie Mouse, you've got men inside of a Minnie Mouse costume greeting the little kids at Disneyland or Disney World. Mm-hmm. That's creepy.
Yeah.
That's creepy. It's not even morally right.
Right.
You should not have a man in a woman being around little kids, and primarily the Minnie Mouse ones are going to be little girls that are coming up to Minnie Mouse primarily.
Yeah.
And now here we are entrusting, and we're just, oh, okay, you know, this is so fun. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I know I'm kicking at a sacred cow right now for some people.
Yeah.
You decide how far you can go.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Once you have knowledge of something and the Holy Spirit begins to talk to you about it, do you do this? No, I can't talk about that one. Can't talk about that one. Mm-hmm. All that is leaving up an idol that it's in your house.
Yeah.
You know,
but here's that's the thing is not everything, even though it came from Disney, is bad. You know,
Right.
because there are some things that provided some genuine good things to society, like Tow Mater. Tow Mater.
Well, that's Pixar.
Yeah, but
Disney Pixar.
Disney
I guess.
bought it, I think, by that time.
Yeah.
I think Cars was the first Disney Pixar film.
Yeah.
But point is, like, Tow Mater is a fantastic character, and he's on a ton of like kids' T-shirts nowadays.
Totally innocent and fun.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
like Tow Mater,
Yeah.
but without the tuh. Good old American boy, right?
Yeah,
But-
but what happens is Ishtar will come in and take things like that now and destroy it,
Right.
and that's what they did with Disney from the very beginning. Disney was not Walt Disney himself. If he allowed that stuff, then we know where the source came from.
Right.
I mean, anyway, all kinds of things. Yeah, he's a great businessman and a visionary and blah blah blah. I've heard the books about it, blah blah blah. But I'm looking at the fruit, and the fruit says pervert. Mm-hmm. Sorry. If you liked Walt Disney and admired his business skills, great. Admire his business skills, but the guy probably was a pervert.
Right.
I'm just saying. Anyway, it's my podcast. I say what I want to.
And regardless of that, again, purge it from the where God says to purge it, not from where you're willing to purge it. Because
Right. And even not where I'm saying purge it.
Yes.
All I'm doing is giving information.
because you could take this and you could go off the rails and you could just go live under a bridge somewhere because that's the only place safe from the government, even though they built
hide
the
out,
bridge.
be a hermit.
I'm
not saying that.
But there is a degree that you are going to have to go, and it may be uncomfortable for you, and probably will be, because
There's a degree of responsibility upon us as believers that once God brings something to light, what are we supposed to do about it?
right.
Again, I'll just say this, when God brought some things to light with me in regard to this case that I was involved in, I was responsible to do something. Mm-hmm. And what people don't know is without me moving forward on this case probably would have never gone forward because there was a lot of hurting people involved. And I had to like walk carefully and talk with people and realize they're hurting. And, I can't just, but I had a responsibility. And now, because this man's in prison, other people won't be hurt. I had a responsibility from God to do something about this, and so now we did it, and these people that came along to help. But I took on the responsibility to try and do something about it, and others wouldn't have been brave enough without us banding together and doing it together. Wouldn't have happened,
Right.
So there's just some things that when you're aware of some things, you have a responsibility to make some changes.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And you have to take it to God with a completely open heart and mind.
Right.
Because, I'm going to, to be completely honest, I do have, Cars, Wall-E, I know Cars and Wall-E for sure. Oh, and Encanto, all those movies are movies in my arsenal, I still watch those movies, and I have them available for kids at my house. But things like Wish or Sleeping Beauty, I get it, it's a classic, but cry about it. Witch Mirror, whatever, those movies are not in my house, and they will not be,
So here's what happens, and what we don't realize, even as Christians, is when we allow this through servitude, essentially what we're doing is we are opening the door to the enemy and letting him in our home.
Right.
Now, when the enemy comes in, you don't get to say, "Oh, you can touch that, but you can't touch that."
Right. He's going to do what he wants to do.
Right. For some of you wonder why you have chronic stomach problems. Somewhere along the line, you're like, "Oh, but I've been in prayer lines and
Yeah.
You wonder sometimes, some of you, why you're having chronic migraines. Take a look at some of this stuff.
Or why your kids are having nightmares.
Why your kids are having nightmares.
Maybe unrelated to any movie or film or whatever.
Right. Totally unrelated. Just can't sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
We war not against flesh and blood.
Yeah.
It is not a medical issue that your kid has. I mean, it could be. I'm not saying. But most of the time, it's probably not a medical issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was that one thing? So there was, I don't know if I should use names or not, but it might have been told from the pulpit. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways,
I don't know what you're saying.
There's a story.
If you have a name, we just bleep it out. You can edit that part out.
No, I'm not going to do it. There's a kid who had this kite. It was like one of those G.I. Joe.
Oh, okay, right.
G.I. Joe kites. And, the G.I. Joe guy, he's manual, he's masculine. He's got the, the guns and the eyes and the...
But the enemy was Cobra.
Yeah.
In GI Joe, the enemy was Cobra, and Cobra had all of their snake eyes. They had the Cobra kite, so the Cobra would have these snake eyes, and they were red, and they looked.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the GI Joe portion was the hero, but then there was the snake eyes, which was the enemy, and this kid
The Cobra.
had, the
Snake
Cobra.
eyes is
snake. Well, it was a cobra, but the eyes were
okay.
crossed, and so there was this figure in this kid's room, and just every once in a while, the kid would be in school and got sent home because they were rolling their eyes in the back of their head and showing the whites of their eyes. And the teacher sent the kid home and said, "Hey, this kid's doing this." And so the parent goes in to talk to the teacher, and the teacher's like, "This is what's going on." Well, then the kid was at the dinner table, and just be talking. All of a sudden, the eyes would roll back, the back of their head. And they got in trouble, and they're like, "What? I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing wrong?" They didn't even know. And it really bothered the parent. So the parent was like, "Well, I don't know what to do here." And they're praying. And one day they're walking by the kid's room, and they see that kite with the eye, and it literally just jumped out at them. They walked in that room, ripped down the kite, and shredded it into pieces. And after that, the kid had no more problems with their eyes rolling back of their head.
Right.
So there's spiritual connections to different things that we have to recognize. And that's why I'm trying to tell you what's going on with Baal, Ishtar, Moloch. With Ishtar, it's a sexualized thing. She's destruction and war and domination. She has lovers, and she's destroying marriages and relationships. And we haven't even got into this yet, but the hookup culture.
That's a
that's here
major
now.
problem.
It's rampant.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, there's people now. There's actual, like the introduction of the polygamy stuff.
Right.
Multiple wives. That's coming from a cult. Anyway, a guy who saw he's got like 3 or 4 different versions of what he saw. According to the book. Whatever. Anyway, it comes from a cult. But that was an introduction to how to have multiple, because there's a polygamy show that came out probably 10 years ago. No.
Is it the Keep Sweet one?
No. This is way before that.
Oh.
This was a really nice young couple that, just decided, that they saw this lady and they asked her to be their second wife. And so this lady came along to be the second wife, and then they got a third one and a fourth one and a fifth one. And they're all...
Oh, on TLC?
Yep, TLC.
Yeah.
So they but you look at these people and they look very normal. Mm-hmm. They talk very normal. Except for the fact that they have multiple wives and one husband. And so they have kids and they have all the same financial problems and different things. And so you kind of... you just kind of connect with them. Oh, you feel for this lady and you feel for that guy and you feel for these kids and you have, and all it was is an introduction to help you soften your attitude towards fornication. Mm-hmm. That's really what it was. Soften your attitude. Oh, but it's what they believe. Well, what they believe is wrong and unbiblical.
Right.
It's not. It's Ishtar. Mm-hmm. Ishtar had many lovers.
Right.
That is Ishtar. She is designed to destroy marriages. And now what you don't see in the public, you only catch a little bit, is I think 3 of those wives have left. One of the they have many kids together, but one of the kids of one of the wives has decided she's now a transgender man. However that works. The girl decided she's a man.
Yeah, switching genders.
So, it's just jacked up. And it's service. It's taming down your thought life. That's why we're showing you this stuff. If you allow it to continue, it will destroy things in your life that you don't have control over. Now, it might not kill you, and you still go to heaven.
Right.
But it's wreaking havoc in areas of your life. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example just for me. I'm talking about disobedience. Has nothing to do with Ishtar, but when I walked away from God and doing my own thing, okay, because this is what you do when you decide to do your own thing. When you hear truth and you decide to do your own thing, this is the result, okay? I knew truth, I walked away from truth, and I did my own thing. When my daughter got her finger cut off, I knew I was responsible for that. I could not tell you why. Now, because she came back in the backyard, Brandy went to church that day, and for whatever reason, she left the kids at home with me, and Riley comes out in the backyard. I'm having coffee in one hand and a hose in the other, spraying down the grass. And Riley wanted to come and hang out in her pajamas. Okay. So she comes out and I look out to the, I hear a clunk, clunk in the backyard, and I turn around and there's Riley looking at her hand like this. I didn't think anything of it. But all of a sudden I turn back around, and I hear her screaming at the top of her lungs, "Daddy!" And she's screaming, and she comes up to me, and her finger is laid off to the side. Mm-hmm. Now, as soon as that happened, I knew that I was at fault for that, but I couldn't tell you why at the time. So what had happened was, just to cut this story really, really short, is I was in disobedience, and I opened the door to the enemy. And the enemy nearly took my daughter's finger. Now, thank God, and it turned out they were able to sew it back on, and it's all normal now.
Right.
But that could have not been that way. She could have missed that finger, but for the grace of God. Okay, but I had opened the door. We don't get to say, okay, enemy, once the door's open, you can't go here, you can't go there, you can't go there, you can't go there. If you let a dog in your house or a cat in your house, they're going to go poop and pee wherever they want. You don't get to tell them when to stop.
Mm-hmm. And you can't undo the damage once it's been done.
Can't undo it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. When you talk, there are spiritual laws that we are subject to. Mm-hmm. And if we serve the enemy, we get the fruit of serving that enemy.
Yeah, is it really worth the risk?
Is it worth it? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not telling you what to do. You've got, if God is pricking your heart right now on something, talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Because he'll let you know. I mean, like you said, we've still watched Mandalorian.
Right. Yeah, we're on a podcast. We have a lot of different viewers. If we say this is the standard, then there could be people out there that it would be totally fine.
Right.
But because we said it, this is how it goes. We're trying to make you aware of the way you're supposed to think towards it. So you can get God on board and find out your specific example.
Yes, get God on board. Mm-hmm. Get God on board. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is we go about our lives not even involving God in some of this stuff.
Right.
And there's some things now I see and I'm like, I can't stand it. I can't do it.
Right.
Can't do it.
I can't watch I can't watch Marvel anymore, basically. I won't. I used to be where it was hard not to spend money because every year there was a new great Marvel film that was coming out. Now, another Marvel movie. Okay. I'll wait and see what the pitch meeting that Ryan George makes says about it, and then I'll go see it.
See, I don't even want to spend $20 at the theater. I'll wait and see some reviews or some clips, and
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Ryan pitch meeting. So
okay,
for maybe you don't know, but on YouTube there's this guy called Ryan George, and he does these things called pitch meetings, where he pretends he's the producer and he pretends that he's the the guy who's coming up with the movie, and it's the pitch meeting of the guy that's coming up with the movie.
Okay,
but he only gives out the dumb parts of the movie. Okay. So it's why would this movie be made? It's made as a joke.
Right.
So.
Okay. Got it. I've never seen that.
If the video is over 7 minutes long, you can almost guarantee it's going to be a bad movie.
Okay.
But anyways, I digress.
All of this being talked about, it's so that we can shift our mindset and our culture back to God.
Right.
That's it. There might be areas this is not going to affect your life at all. I'm not saying that, but if you can see what I see, then when you look at those things and you go, that doesn't sit right, man, pay attention to that stuff. Mm-hmm. Because it could be the cause of, and not that your kids' eyes are rolling in the back of their head, but there could be some issues that are happening for your kids that you're like, I don't understand what is up with them. Mm-hmm. It could be something as simple as a cartoon they've been watching that they shouldn't be.
Right.
That's it. And all you got to do is go click.
Yep.
That's it.
It may be a rough transition for a minute.
It might be. They might, what do you mean I can't watch this anymore? You don't even have to explain well, God told me. You don't have to do that. Just say, honey, we need to do something different. Mm-hmm. That's it. You don't have to get over spiritual with it and get weird with it. Just shut it off.
Yeah. There are alternatives.
You are the parent. Mm-hmm. So funny. I haven't even got into the Ishtar stuff. But
we got more episodes.
We do. But now that worship and serve is introduced, at least we know, what it looks like. I mean, to serve. Okay, let me finish this. Hebrews. not Hebrews. The Hebrew word for serve means to labor under, to be kept in bondage to be enslaved by. If you can't go click, shut it off because it disagrees with the word, you are that one's slave.
Yeah.
Which means you're in servitude. You are the servant. See how this works backwards? If you are kept in bondage, you can't say no. Don't tell me about this. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about Disney. I don't want to. You're in bondage. I'm not telling you can't go. You should talk to God about it.
Right.
But if you're one of those people, don't talk to me about it. I don't want to bring it before God because I don't even want to know what He says. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to lose this joy in my life. You are in bondage. Well, I mean, we had to go through that with the Star Wars stuff because that was a big thing in our household. We'd watch basically any Star Wars thing that came out, but man, it started to get just bad.
Yeah, it was rough, especially for me. Many tears were shed.
But to overlook that stuff, I mean, we would just continue to add shackle upon shackle upon shackle if we didn't do something about it. And so, anyway, we've already covered the fact that Ashtaroth is plural for Ishtar, goddess of. Okay, so she's the god of sexuality and destruction and war. So we'll kind of dip into a little bit of some things as far as we'll cover a lot of it on another episode. But something I wanted to do here is where she was introduced to society. Okay, so I want to read something here. Where's it at here? So one of the things about Ishtar when she was introduced to society is that with her, sex becomes a god for the society. And so that's what we're seeing now. Sex is now looked upon as,
The supreme part of humanity.
the supreme part of humanity.
Defining trait.
Like virgins now are looked down upon. What? You're a virgin? And they berate people that are virgins because you haven't had sex yet. I mean, I've had whatever they say.
Whatever your body count
Whatever
is.
their body count. They're proud of their body count now. So this is now, sex has now become a competition, and it's now a matter of body count, to the point where here just recently there was a lady on, what was it?
An on the street interview, is that what you're talking about?
No, the 100.
Oh, yeah.
That's
another shift episode.
OnlyFans.
No.
She was an OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah, they
girl.
both were.
Yeah. So she was which, just to ease your mind, I don't know who these people are, and I've never looked at an OnlyFans. So I'm only going by the reels and hearing what people talk about.
Yeah, there's some news stories about them, so just buckle up. And also PA warning right now.
And yes, another
Parental advisory.
Right. Which, if, Breaking Woke podcast, well, anyway.
Here we
PA
go.
advisory. So to the point where, you've got this woman now, she decided she was going to have sex with 100 men in 24-hour period because it boosted her OnlyFans.
And it was a Guinness World Record.
And it was a Guinness World Record. So now, look at the tie-in now to money and sex, which is Baal and Ishtar. They're married, right? They're married. So one introduced the other. So the hunger for money drove this girl to start an OnlyFans, and then Ishtar was introduced. Well, OnlyFans is an Ishtar platform, altar. So she gets this bold idea from where? Ishtar. She starts this thing and now has 100 men and does their thing. But then somebody else has another bright idea. Apparently as a friend of hers or something.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, another friend from OnlyFans.
Another friend from OnlyFans says, you know what? I'm going to do 1,000 men in 24 hours.
Yeah, didn't even go to 100.
Yeah.
Just boosted it 10x.
Yeah. Not 101, 1,000.
And did it.
And did it. Happened in January, right? And
Of 2025.
now here's the depravity of this. This is why we've got to get so far away from this stuff as we can and let God bring us back into a place where, okay, some of these things are seemingly going to be painful to get rid of because it's been a part of your life. And it's like there's videos I've seen where a dog grew up with a collar on its neck and it grew into the skin. Mm-hmm. It was a slave so long from a puppy, and it was never changed that it grew into the skin, and they had to sedate the dog to get the collar off so that it didn't hurt the dog. Mm-hmm. That's where some of us are.
Yeah.
As Christians, we're so enslaved that the thought of stopping something or letting something go hurts to the point where I know this is going to hurt. I don't want to. Let God sedate you. He will do this for you.
Mm-hmm. It'll take something beyond your power sometimes.
It will. The only freedom from this kind of stuff, to see the power of God active in our lives, the trade-off is amazing. Mm-hmm. To get rid of slavery and to allow the God of the universe to work in your life is amazing.
Yeah, because it's beyond just getting rid of the bondage and the joy. Because it gets rid of the bondage and God will replace with a greater, more fulfilling joy. You know, it's like eating, it's like having your cake and eating it too. You know, really,
right.
Really it is. You know, it's not like just you can't have candy and now you have to eat fruit, which is like a substitute sugar. Like, there are better things in store.
So much better. Even, you know, I know for some of you that might be listening right now that are younger, maybe you're in college, maybe you're in high school, and the pressures that you're facing from school, even to the point where, like right now, I don't know of anybody, so what I'm about to say, I don't know anybody that's doing this, but you, as a Christian, are going too far with your girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And you know it. But you're numb to it because it's casual, it seems okay.
Or maybe it's not even deemed blinkable by society.
Right. Society think nothing of it. Mm-hmm. You know, but even as I mentioned it pricks your heart.
Yep.
Those are the kinds of things that we have got to, that's the collar you got to get rid of. There's blessing beyond. Let me tell you something. If I could go back, because of what I went through as a kid and how I didn't grow up in a saved household, and some of the things that I did as a teenager still affects my life today. Mm-hmm. You know, if I could go back and adjust that, I would. I would fix that. And so I'm telling you, don't cave to this stuff. Don't cave to it. So anyhow, let me read one more thing here, because then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
So, because we didn't even get to any of the stuff as far as the introduction to Ishtar, you know, kind of what she does. She's the great seductress. You know, she brings in and seduces a society into pleasurable things. Mm-hmm. So Baal numbs people and alters perception, and then she comes in and starts adding flavor to it, if you will. Makes it attractive, desirable, and appeals to the emotions and desires of the person. And so here's what happens, the passions of this goddess. It says, so with the return of Ishtar, American and modern cultures became consumed with instant gratification. Americans increasingly chose their desires over relationships, over preserving their marriages or entering into them in the first place. So they want gratification, not commitment. Does that make sense? So the hookup culture now, they can have the pleasure without the commitment. Mm-hmm. That's the spirit of Ishtar. Even now, marriages, they have, you know, over the years, what they call it, swinging. I didn't even know what that was. Someone had to explain it to me. I didn't know what swinging was. Now it's called something different now, but it's still the same thing.
Plural marriage, or not plural marriage. That's a polygamy thing. That's open marriage. Open marriage,
yeah. Now it's open marriage, but it used to be called swinging. And basically, what it is married couples having sex with other married couples' partners. Mm-hmm. You know, so it was a thing to I forget how they called it. But it added flavor to the relationship. It added spice to the relationship. Is all the talk about it. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, it was what they would do is people would get together for what might be a Super Bowl party, and not really a Super Bowl party, but they'd get together and they would put their house keys in a bowl, and you come along and draw the house key out, and whoever house key you got, you were with that one's other. Mm-hmm. You know, and so that's how they decided who. So that is giving up relationships for pleasurable things. Because there's no, I mean, just be real. Sex is pleasurable. God designed it that way for man and wife.
Right.
Man and wife. Man and wife.
Right.
Not boyfriend, girlfriend, not boyfriend, boyfriend, not girlfriend, girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Anywho.
Or in this case, just anybody you see.
Just anybody you see. So here's what happens when she comes in. She creates a culture of hyper individualism, self gratification, proved to be toxic to marriage and relationships. So here's the thing about what's happening with Ishtar right now, with hookup culture and this desire for self gratification. We're seeing the death of that. Or we're seeing the results of that and death now. There's statistics coming out that men have all of a sudden decided to quit dating.
Yeah. There's a lot of men just leaving the dating scene altogether.
Leaving the dating scene. So what are they doing? They're going hunting, they're going to work, they're going fishing. Or
just staying home playing video games.
Or just staying home playing video games. What's happened? Destruction of relationships. Mm-hmm. Man and woman are designed to come together and get to know each other.
Yep.
God introduced Eve to Adam as a helpmate, someone comparable to him.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think the major problem is Ishtar has a much higher draw to women. And that's why I think she's appealed to as a woman. You know, because it's all in the guise of sexual promiscuity and all that stuff. But it's the bait, the draw, the aroma is for, like you said, individualism.
Breaking the glass ceiling.
Breaking the glass ceiling.
You know, it just dawned on me today. Hold that thought, but it just dawned on me today. The term "breaking the glass ceiling," you know, Hillary Clinton brought that out a lot, and it just dawned on me today that is a motivation of Ishtar, because she's domineering, making her own way. You know, and to break the glass ceiling was basically to say that a woman deserves to be president, is what she said. And I'm not against that. I'm just saying.
Has to be the good one, though.
Has to be a good one, you know, and someone called of God to do it.
Right.
This is not just going to break the glass ceiling because we're going to do this. It's because one of the things about Ishtar is she breaks boundaries. She breaks cultural norms. She breaks taboos. That's her goal. Mm-hmm. Her goal is to break all of those. Well, you say this is wrong, then I'm going to break it. That's her attitude. Mm-hmm. You know, and here Hillary Clinton was one of those people, I'm going to break the glass ceiling. You know, and what's crazy is, anyway, I'm not even going to go there because what the Lord showed me, he said she served at the altar of Baal for too long. Mm-hmm. I'm like,
which will probably be a whole episode.
Yeah. But anyway.
But so anyway, the Ishtar connection there is such a high, you know, connection for women because, like it's very evident in this culture, women are the gatekeepers of sex. Like they are the ones with all the power, especially even in hookup culture, especially in hookup culture. If they don't want it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
You know, and with dudes, you know, dudes obviously have the attraction because they like that pleasure, you know, and then they have the alcohol involvement and whatever. But in a larger sense of things, women will be drawn into it because of the promise of individualism and power, and the men will withdraw from it because you think about this, you know, for chivalry and honor, men treat women with respect. Mm-hmm. And that means they give them whatever they want. You know, they go and buy things for the woman. They go and make a plan for the woman. Like that's how you are in dating. Like that's the chivalry aspect of men. You know, that's the honor aspect of men. And whether or not they actually are good at it or even realize what they're doing, it's innate in man. Right. So you can see it in culture, you know, even if it's not actually there, you know. So then when the women say, like through this Ishtar spirit, they hop on that train and they're like, we want, you know, no boundaries. We want blah, blah, blah. We want all this stuff that Ishtar is telling them to present. The men are going to step back because even from a chivalry sense, they're going to say, have what you want.
Right. See, now you can see the death of relationships, the death of marriage, and it leads to desperation because now you've got women
does.
who will be in their 40s and not married,
And they want to be,
and they want to be married.
but they were so caught up in this movement of Ishtar.
Yes, and they're going to be like, "What happened?"
And
To
we're
the
seeing
point
it.
where, both men and women will decide to commit suicide over it because they're lonely.
Yeah.
They're lonely. They feel like they're by themselves, and that is the end result of Moloch. And let me say this: if you're in your 40s and you're a single woman, it's not too late.
Yeah.
It's not too late. God is a God of miracles, love, and hope. And it's not too late to have babies either in your 40s. Just saying. You may not be I don't want to have someone when I'm 60 years old getting out of high school. Okay, then don't. Adopt.
Yeah.
There's plenty of options. What I'm saying is God is hopeful
Right.
for you.
Because
But-
God is a God of second chances.
Oh my goodness, Veggie Tales.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ishtar is doing her job right now. We're seeing it in hookup culture. We're seeing people. We're seeing the death of relationships, and we've got to change it.
So another episode.
Another episode.
There's a lot more to cover.
A lot more. We're only barely tapping into Ishtar. So next time. Hey everybody, if you like this podcast, remember to share it with someone. We have new episodes every other Wednesday at 2 p.m. If you'd like to help us spread the message even further, go to rootedministries.us and click the donate button. The gospel is free, but it takes money to get it out.